This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so there's a very interesting up and back between Rambam, Maimonides, and Ravid. Ravid writes notes on the Rambam. And the Rambam, Maimonides, writes that in the world to come, there is no physicality whatsoever. And the Ravid jumps on the Rambam and says, is he denying the whole idea of Tchiyat HaMeitim, the second blessing of the Amidah that we say 3 times a day, speaks about Baruch Atah Hashem, Mechayei HaMeitim, that ultimately there will be the resuscitation of those who have died, and there will be once again a uniting of body and soul. Is Rambam, the Rabbi challenges, is he denying this basic principle of Judaism? And the Kesef Mishnah, one of the commentaries on the Rambam, right, it happens to be Rav Yosef Karo, who ultimately wrote the Shulchan Aruch. He explains that both Rambam and Ravid agree with one another, but there are 2 different stages, and each one is referring to it as Olam Haba. There is the interim stage, when a person dies and the body returns to the ground and the soul goes to the Olam HaNishamot, the spiritual world. And that is what the Rambam was speaking about, where there is no physicality. But of course, the Rambam agrees that there is the next stage after that the Ravid was referring to, which is Tchiyat HaMeitim, the time when there will be a reuniting of the body and the soul. Rabbi. So we discussed last time, just 1 second, we ended off last time with the idea that once there was the sin that took place, the body was compromised, the world was compromised, and the body as it is and the world as it is cannot be the venue that would allow for this devekus, for this coming, this unity coming together of us and Hashem, and therefore we need to go through a decomposition and then a rebuilding. So the body, the person dies, the soul lifts off, and the body returns to the ground where it decomposes, where it can be rebuilt, and the world will ultimately also be rebuilt in a way, in a Gan Eden, in a Garden of Eden form, which will allow for this unity of this dveikus between of us and Hashem. Yes, Uzi.
So you should know, just from the bottom of my heart, I believe 100% in what you just said, right? I really do. However, there are some people who are looking for the sources for this statement. In other words, where in the Torah or the Bible do we have this belief of what you just said? And, I'll give you an example. I learned, for example, that on Rosh Hashanah, God is determining the amount of money you're going to make or lose for the entire year. And that's a belief that I believe 100%. And in fact, you should know, I spent thousands of dollars getting the Torah book out for that. Thousands of dollars, because I believe it. But I don't know where in the Torah or the Bible we came up for that. The reason I'm asking, let me just say that the reason I'm asking that question is because there are some people who are not Jewish who believe that the oral Torah is a concoction of the rabbis and not coming from anywhere else.
Okay, so we have always had, not just amongst non-Jews, but even amongst the Jews, we had the Tzedukim who challenged the Torah Shebaal Peh, and today we have the Karaites who challenge the Torah Shebaal Peh.
Right.
But Judaism has always understood that along with the Torah Shebal Peh, came its explanation. And it has to be, meaning Hashem cannot have told Moshe that you should put an ot al yadech and a totafot between your eyes without explaining that that is referring to the tefillin. And that is why any Jew, Orthodox, conservative, Reform, Reconstructionist, who is deciding to wear tefillin, wears the same exact tefillin. It's the black boxes. It's 4 on the shel rosh, on the head. It's 1 of the shel yad. Now, in addition to that, are many of these other teachings, which Olam Haba and Tchiyat HaMeitim, the world to come, and Tchiyat HaMeitim is not explicit in the Torah. The Gemara brings many different hints to it. And the idea behind that is it's very easy. I was watching a thing by Tuvia Singer, right? So he was saying, it's easy to promise hell and promise heaven, right? Because who's going to know, right? The Gemara has an expression for that. My witnesses are overseas, so believe me, right? The Torah speaks about what will happen in this world. I'll hold back the rains. Shemitah will come. You'll have a bounty the 6th year. The Torah speaks about what is this year, but there are many hints to it in the Torah. And one of the hints we say in the Shema every single time we say the Shema. At the end of the second parsha of the Shema, we say that you should keep these mitzvot, Laman yirbu yemechem, v'mei v'mechem, in order that to prolong your days and the days of your children, al ha'adamah, on this land, asher nishba la'Hashem lavotechem, that God swore to your ancestors, latet, to give, lahem, to give to them. It doesn't say he swore to your ancestors to give to you, that he swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Abraham and Yaakov, to give lachem, to you. It says latet lahem. He'll give it to them. But he never did give it to them. The land was not given to them. They died before that. This is one of the examples of hints in the Torah to Tchiyat HaMeitim. The Torah says the land will be given lahem, not lachem, not to you, the descendants, but rather lahem, to them. And therefore, this is, again, there are many hints to it, but it's not explicit in the Torah. There's no point in the Torah promising things that will happen, right, which can't be proven. The Torah deals with the here and now. Okay, so let's continue now. So therefore, there are these 2 stages, and that's what the Ramchal spoke about in paragraphs 9 and paragraph 10, that we have that there needs to be this decomposition, and then there will be this rebuilding. So Yud Aleph, 11 now. Once it was decreed that man must die, and we discussed last week that it's to our benefit to die. That was the Twilight Zone episode, right? That if we are in an imperfected state, if we don't die, which was the original status of Adam and Chava, then we are consigned to forever be in this imperfect state, which would be a travesty, to never be able to reach the whole point of creation, which is that dveikus, that closest to God. So this partnership that we had of which is the body and soul together, it must separate lizman ma, for a certain period of time. The achakach yashuv litchaber, and afterwards it will rejoin. Hine, behold, gam bizman perud hazeh, also during this time of separation, ra'ui shia makom l'shnei hachalakim hamipardim. There needs to be, just like we said, there needs to be the environment for Olam Hazeh, for this world, which provides the proper setting and the proper environment for the world to come, which will provide its proper setting. So too, during this time of separation, each part needs to have its proper venue, its proper makom. There'll be a place for these 2 parts that separated, naot, fitting, proper, l'mashin nirtzeh leperud hahu, fitting for that which needs to be accomplished during this time of separation. V'hinei. So let's look at each one. Haguf tzarich sheyachzor liyisodo. The guf, the body, needs to go back to its basics, to its elements.
Foundation.
The tipareda karvato, that which had come together, needs to separate and needs to decompose. The tipased surato, to lose the form that it has. V'hoyel v'hayam min afar, and since we come from the physical, from the dust, so to speak, elav yashuv, the body returns to the dust. As it said in Bereshit, Adam, that's what God said to Adam. With you 1 second, David. Ki afar ata ve'el afar tashuv. You come from the dust, to the dust you will return. So during this time, the body needs to decompose, to return to its element in order that it can later be rebuilt, reconstructed. Yes, David?
I'm struggling to understand what the possible value would be to have the billions of people who have lived and died to repopulate the earth in their body. And what body? The body we had when we died as an 80-year-old, 100-year-old, or a body when we were virile and 18 and 25? I mean, what would be served by that? I'm lost by that.
I'm not understanding your question, David.
What is
the purpose? The purpose is to be rebuilt in a manner that we are not degraded by that sin, and be able to have that devekus, that clinging with God. That is the purpose.
And may I add to what you said, Rabbi?
Sure.
David, if it wasn't the case that there is a world to come and there's a world beyond the one we are living on today, then one has to ask himself, what's the purpose of this world? If we came here to die, then why do we live? What do we come here for? If we came here to live, then why do we die? So what's the purpose for this world? This idea of the world to come gives you a purpose for your life. In other words, without that, there's no purpose to our life here. It's all for nothing. Live, and die tomorrow. Do whatever you can because there's nothing else afterwards. Therefore, I don't know if you must have had people in your family who have died, right? I had people in my family, my father, my sister, and so on. I have more. And I believe that in the world to come, I will get to see them again. It's not over. It's just the beginning, this world. So this whole idea of the world to come is just the beginning and give us purpose for this world.
That's very nice, Uzi. I appreciate that's how you view it. My question is why do we need to come back in a body? We don't know what the world to come will be.
Okay. So the reason for that, he will deal with that, David. But let me tell you just in brief, the reason for that is all the good things that one did in this world. And I don't know if I agree with you completely. There is purpose in this life. There is so much beauty that we can create in this life. There's so much spirituality. There's so much goodness that we can create in this life. But it then leads on to the next stage. But David, anything good that you did in this world, it wasn't your soul acting unilaterally that did that. It was body and soul. Meaning you had this inspiration. I'm going to get into my car. I'm going to drive all the way to shul. Okay, that's great inspiration. But the body had to get itself off the couch, into the car, and do all the driving. The body needs to get itself up early in the morning. Everything was a combination of body and soul. Every good thing that you've done has been a combination of body and soul, and therefore the sachar, the reward, also needs to be body and soul, you in your totality.
I
Okay,
understand that. I
we
don't
will
think
see
we'll
more.
have cars in the world to come, but I understand what you're saying.
There's one more thing that I wanted to add, Rabbi, right? Please. In the beginning, the plan was for men, human beings, to live forever, without a world to come, without nothing. Adam was never supposed to die. He was just
Correct.
warned that on the day he's going to eat from the fruit, then he will surely die. Well, unfortunately, he did. Okay, so now what? What's the purpose? God created the world, the universe for us, and so on. And now we're going to die. So what is this all for anyway? So the whole idea of this world is to come back to the stage of the Gan Eden that Adam was, to correct for the original sin. That's the
Right.
whole.
That
That's
we had
what this is
earlier.
all
The
about.
Ramchal spoke of that earlier. That is correct. That originally it was Gan Eden, literally on this earth, and ultimately we need to get back to that point. Yes. Okay, let's go a little further though, my friends. So the body
Can I
needs to
ask?
go to yes.
I just
Yes, David.
sorry, but David's question about which body, I've always wondered that too. Because
Okay.
which body,
So
and what about people
yes.
who are burned,
Okay.
or I mean, like, yeah,
Yes.
which body?
Okay. So a question that's asked is that Judaism believes in Gilgul. Gilgul is reincarnation, not in a constant loop of reincarnation like a Dalai Lama and some other religions. And oh, Galit, that's what you had mentioned this last time. And we were supposed to start with that this time. Okay, Min Hashemayim. That's what brought us back here, right, Galit? That's what you had mentioned that last time, and we
Yeah,
were supposed to start with that this time. Yes. So yeah. So Galit, if I remember correctly, you had asked last time. So how does this reincarnation fit into this cycle that we've discussed? And Dalit is adding to that. So with Tchiyat HaMeitim, if there is this concept of Gilgul, so then which body comes back, right? Right? Because if we've been here a number of times, and according to the Mekubalim, according to the Kabbalists, our generation
Hmm,
is
that
mostly
too.
Gilgulim, right? So how does Gilgul fit in, Galit, and which one comes back ultimately? And that's what Galit asked.
Well, and
So,
David was asking what stage of our body too. Like, is it, I
right,
mean, the
okay,
person after
okay.
they're old or
Okay.
young?
So in terms of what Galit was asking, our understanding is that at certain points, when when their soul is in the Olam Nishamot, is in the world of Nishamot, they might reach a certain point where they can't go any higher until they will once again be in this world with an opportunity, because in the next world there is no choices, there is no real growth, there is no free will. So you don't own, right? That's how we began. You need to be the Ba'alim, you need to be the owner of it. It
Hmm.
needs to be your moves. So therefore a person comes back to this world and completely forgets their whole past experience as long as they are in this body. According to the Kabbalists, as soon as a person dies, they know exactly who they were in previous times, what they were supposed to come back and accomplish, and hopefully hopefully not doing what David's doing, say oy vey, right? But hopefully saying, okay, I nailed that one, right? So yeah. So there are times that a person needs to come back for what we call that unfinished business, or in order to reach a level that they hadn't reached before. So you have
Hmm.
situations where a person reached a very high level, but didn't merit having any children, and needed to come back to this world to have children, and then was able to return to the next world. As we always mourn a death, when we call it a premature death, when a person dies young. But basically, according to this understanding, that person has completed what they needed to complete, and therefore it's time for them to go back home. So in general terms, and Galit, we will have a chapter on this Gilgul at a later point in the Sefer, right? In terms of what David and Dalit had added on, right? The person is, right? When we come back, we're going to be strong and vital, right? As an 18-year-old, as a 25-year-old, as a strong, vital person. I wouldn't mind having that body, but still having my mind now. I don't want my head as an 18 or a 25 or a 30-year-old. I'm much happier with where my head is at right now, right? But in terms of which one comes back, right? If in fact we have these different Gilgulim and we've been here in different stages as different entities, so who comes back? So the way that I try to wrap my head around that is the same way that we don't ask, will I be wearing my zipper up sweater, or will it be my pullover sweater? Or maybe it'll be no sweater at all. Will it be a white shirt, a blue shirt, a purple shirt? So, right, if someone were to ask that question, we would respond, that's so irrelevant. That's just a garment.
You're talking to
Uzi,
women.
please. So we'd say that's irrelevant. That's just a garment. So we have to realize that our body is a garment. We are exactly who we are in terms of our neshama, and this is a garment that we're wearing. So exactly which garment we'll be wearing, I would surmise the garment where we accomplished the most, the garment which was our shining moment, our best showing. I imagine that would be the garment that will get literally dusted off, and we will be wearing. Yes, Uzi, what were you saying?
Well, first of all, it's very dangerous to talk to women about what should they wear or not. This is something that is amazingly important to them. So be careful about that.
Then the older we are, most likely
Because
the older we are, that will be the best garment that we have.
Okay.
Perhaps,
the other thing,
Khalid.
Dalit is asking a great question. Who's coming back? And that reminds me about another question, and that is that a couple may divorce during this world, right, and remarry. Meanwhile, they all died. So when the souls come back, where will they come back to? To the original wife, the second wife, and so on. The answer to that is that, what I learned was that the soul will split, and then will reunite with each couple, and that the ability to split like that, as far as who's going to come back. So the soul will split, will come back to the original wife as well as to the new wife for that husband.
Interesting. Could be. I don't know. Could be. Interesting. Okay. Let us continue over here, my friends.
Okay.
Acha neshama, but the neshama, the soul, hazocha b'ma'aseha, that merited through its actions, or even say shemen zayit zach, that became purified through its actions. Hine ein la ela letzapot ad sheyaseh beguf ma shetzarich leasot. All it needs to do is to wait until it can and will be reunited with the body and do that which it's meant to do to the body. Dahainu, which is ha'atacha v'havseh b'rishona, meaning that the body is going to first undergo that decomposition that we spoke about. V'asher ba'afar kol hazman shetzarich, it will be in the state of dust for the period of time that it needs to. V'hi banot mechadash achar kach, to be rebuilt anew afterwards. L'keshetashuv likanes bo, that then the soul can return likanes, and to enter into it. So basically, it's waiting. On one level, the soul is simply waiting until it can do its thing when it re-enters that rebuilt body. V'amnam, however, but it needs to have a place for the interim. Olam haneshamot, and it's for that what is called, what he refers to as the Olam haneshamot, the spiritual world, or the world of the spirits, the world of the souls, that was created. So when we speak about a person dying and going to Olam Haba, or going to Gan Eden, the Gan Eden tehei menuchato, let the menuchata, let his or her resting be in Gan Eden. What we are actually referring to is this Olam HaNeshamot. Shebo tikanasna neshamot hazakot. That is where those souls that have merited will enter. Acharei seitan min aguf, after they've left the body. V'tishkona sham, and they will dwell there, rest there, b'mekom menucha, in a place of resting. Kol zman hitgalgel al haguf hadinim haru'im litgalgel alav, while the body is undergoing all of the dinim, all of that which it needs to undergo. So the soul goes to this olam nishamot. But what happens? V'hinei kol hazman hahu tishkon nishamot hain b'ma'ala u'v'ta'anug. All that time, the souls are there in a state, in an uplifted state, and a ta'anug of pleasure, of enjoyment. Me'ain, a little bit of a taste of mashni ninatein lahen achakach, a little taste of that which will be given to them afterwards, bizman ha'gemul ha'amiti, during the time of the actual true reward and compensation that we mentioned above. Ki gam b'malato b'ma'olam ha'neshamot, because certainly also its level in the olam ha'neshamot, will be based upon the life that the person lived, based upon the actions that they did during their lifetime here. According to that, that will also determine the reward, the closeness they'll have with God in that ultimate time of reward, and will also determine the level that they'll be during this interim of the Olam HaNeshamot. But that full shleimut, that full perfection that is destined for those who merit it, lo yasiguhu, cannot be attained, lo haguf, not the body on its own, velo haneshama, nor the soul on its own, ella, only behitchabram shenit, only when they will join together, litchaber, join together a second time, achar hatchiyah, after that time of the tchiyat hametim, after that time of the resurrection.
Right. And this is so basic to Judaism belief, is that, noten la rashara kerishato, right?
Yeah.
It's like the reward that for good deeds and the punishment for bad deeds, and so on. And this is something
very, very basic.
But
Accountability.
what I don't understand is it says it's as if the body is getting the punishment, but the neshama is not. Is that what it says? I don't understand.
The body is not so much getting the punishment. He's going to discuss that a little bit more, okay? But the body is not so much getting the punishment. The body is getting prepared for its ultimate reward, but it can't receive it in this degraded state that we are in since the time of the Chet of Adam HaRishon, and therefore it needs to have this decomposition in order to be rebuilt. So I wouldn't say that the body is getting the punishment and the soul is getting off scot-free. It is a partnership through and through. And ultimately, the ultimate reward, but the reward for the body is on delay. That is definitely true, Galit. Whereas the soul in the interim is getting some of this ta'anug, the body is not getting the ta'anug until the time that it will be rebuilt. That is correct. That is true.
May I add to what you said, Rabbi?
Sure, Uzi.
The question was whether just the body get punished and not the neshama. And I will say that the neshama in this world is really hurting because it's sitting inside a body that only wants to take. And every time the body wants to take, the neshama, which only wants to give, is hurting a lot all the time. We want to eat, we want to travel, we want to do this, and the neshama only wants to give, while the body only wants to take. So the neshama is hurting all the time when it's here. There is no reason for neshama to be here. It wants to be in the world of the neshamot up there. So just the presence of the neshama in this world is a punishment. And that will be my answer to your question.
Interesting. So the neshama suffered while we were alive. Well, hopefully not. Hopefully it's a good partnership, and we're both happy doing what we're doing. Yeah.
And that's why that's yeah. All right.
Okay.
So yeah.
Let me try to go a little bit further, my friends. Okay. V'ulam. So paragraph 12 now. V'ulam. Milvadiot olam neshamot makom neshamot. Besides this olam, this world of the souls, being a place, as a waiting station, so to speak, as it's waiting for the body. Hine, behold, otoel gadola nimtsepo leneshamot atzman. There is a tremendous gain, benefit that it gets, for the souls get at that point, which will then relay itself to the goof, to the body. That which will be needed afterwards at the time of the resurrection. And that is, once we had this gezerah, this decree, that mankind can only reach this shleimus, this perfection, only after death. Even though that his actions might have been such when he was alive that he was worthy for it then. Right? Because otherwise, if his actions were not worthy of it, then even right, without this world, he can never get to the next world. The only time that we can acquire this perfection, that we can earn and deserve this, is b'olam hazeh, in this world, terem hamavet, prior to death, as we mentioned. So od nimshach min hagzera zot, another result of this decree, shanishama kozman yota baguf olam hazeh, sharada vukbo, that this neshama is all the time that it was in this world, in the body, sharada vukbo, and therefore, and there is all of this ra, evil all around us. Shiav sheshvim men legamrei, right? It's impossible to completely disassociate. The soul cannot disassociate from it. Therefore, it too is darkened. It too is darkened and dimmed. It can't be at its full radiance. Even though, because of the actions, a person acquires this perfection, lo yuchal davar ligalot, it cannot express itself. Lo tuchal lihizdaher bezor she'ro lo lihizdaher. That soul cannot explode with brilliance in the way that it is supposed to explode. According to that beauty, that essence, that spirituality that it is gaining, it really should be exploding with light, with purity. But it can't. It remains cramped down, concealed, until the time where it can be expressed. It's not the soul that is holding itself back from this explosion of purity, of light, of brilliance. Right? It's the guf. It's the body. And the body itself is also losing out from this. That the body is not going to get that purification, that illumination. that it's destined to get. Anam gam himav said it, but the neshama is also losing out. Shehi kavusha ba'atzma, that it is being constrained. The eni choli b'sheit zaren, it can't explode with its brilliance. Va'od she'ena po'elet ha'pulah ru'uya la shizuka kaguf. Its real purpose is to elevate and illuminate the body, and it can't do that. If it were to do that, now, if it was purifying the body, it itself, the soul itself, would reach a higher level because it's doing that which it's meant to be doing. Its perfection is to purify and uplift that body.
Right.
That is the action that is supposed to be doing according to its nature. That is what it is created to do. The kol nivra mishdalem. Every creation reaches its perfection when it does when it does that which the Creator has set for it to do. The chaser mishleimut kozman shelo yipaleu, and it's lacking shleimut when it's not doing that. The amnam, the seitan neshama yaguf. So now this is the second part of what happens to the soul in that olam neshamot when it leaves the body and it goes lechta, and it goes al olam neshamot. Hine sham mitpasheshet mizdaheret bizareha. There it spreads out. It illuminates. It is brilliant in its glory, according to that which its actions have earned, and that which it attains when it's there. It now gets strengthened and illuminated without that impediment, without that darkness of the body that it shared. And therefore it's that much more ready to do what it needs to do at the time of the ultimate reuniting.
Yes.
When it'll return to the body at that time, it'll be able to do that which it's meant to do, hainu, which is hazikuch, that incredible purification, she'zacharnu, that we mentioned. So the body readies itself by its decomposing, and the neshama is getting its reward, and it also is now, without the connection to the body, able to glow and glow and glow and get greater and greater based on the actions that it did. So at the point that it does reunite, it can do that which it's supposed to do. The shleimut, such powerful words he said. The shleimut, the perfection of anything, it's when it's doing that which it was created to do. The neshama, it is to purify, to uplift. That will be its time of absolute shleimut. And us too, right? In the lives that we live in our day to day, when are we achieving our shleimut? When we are doing that for which we were created for, which is to elevate ourselves, elevate the world around us, and to try to bring it up. Everyone can stand. I need to run across to Davin, so I'm going to say goodbye now. I'm traveling the end of this week. I'll be getting back on Monday. We will have the class. So even though you see me, you might see from emails that I'll be away this Shabbos, getting back on Monday. I'm getting back early Monday afternoon, but we will have this class next week, Beth Hashem, please God, regular time at 5:45.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Okay.